I think it's being recorded. Yes. Okay. So this is being recorded. Thank you guys for joining us. This is a part of a series of a webinar that we do pretty much every Thursday within our Facebook group. And then this is being recorded and it's most likely going to be put on our BlueNotary channel. So let me just hit admit all so that way everybody can come in at the same time. Um, so anyway, I just wanted to welcome everybody. This is John Pfaff. He is a
Hello.
mortgage loan originator and also happens to be my brother. So I wanted to welcome you, and I wanted to ask him to come on here so that way it kind of answers a couple questions that I always ask, and I hear a lot of times for the loan signing process to kind of give everybody a little bit of a sneak peek as to why some of these things happen. So I think, John, do you want to give a little bit of a background of how long you've been doing this?
Oh, absolutely. I've been a loan originator since 2015,
Mhm.
and I've been involved in real estate, as you know, since I was about 12.
Yeah.
So everything from leasing to renting to acquisitions of property, rental real estate, short term, long term, the whole nine.
Yeah.
So
It,
yeah, I've been
it's
doing this almost a decade.
yeah, it's been a bit of a family business. So I
Yeah.
wanted to okay, if nobody is what is essentially like a mortgage loan originator? Like what do you do?
So a mortgage loan originator is I sell people to banks.
Hmm.
I don't sell mortgages. I sell people who are qualified for mortgages to banks, and then the banks pay me for bringing them essentially a closed deal. A large portion of my job is explaining to people how to qualify for a mortgage in the first place,
Hmm.
because that's not really something that anybody tells them. They just, oh no, you didn't meet the criteria. Good luck. My job involves explaining why you didn't meet that criteria, how you might be able to bring yourself up to it, different ways of building your credit, possibly structuring your income for future. Don't switch from a W-2 to a 1099 and expect to be able to buy a house the next year. All these little things that aren't really taught anywhere
Hmm.
are things that I teach to my customers so that they can have success in the future with purchasing homes.
Okay, cool. So a blueprint on how to be able to eventually buy a house. Okay. So we were brainstorming about some of the questions that I think are the most relevant as far as for notaries,
Mhm.
for when you're getting into loan signing. Obviously, you know that loan signing is a pretty big process of what I do as so we can just jump right into the first question, which is fairly relevant to me. But who decides the settlement date for a package?
So the simple answer is the purchase contract. So whatever the two parties agree on as the closing date, that's the settlement date.
Okay.
The slightly more complex answer is the lender, because if we don't meet the settlement date on the contract because the conditions aren't met or we don't have a clear to close yet, they will allow us to extend the contract and close at a later date so that we have time to answer those questions.
Okay. So that kind of goes into the second question is why does it sometimes take so long for the documents to drop? Because and recently I just saw on a different Facebook page that I'm part of about how a notary was scheduled for something at 10 o'clock and they were waiting at I think like 9:40 for the documents to drop. Like what causes that?
Well, one is people aren't really thinking about your guys' schedule,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Oh, I know.
The the main reason is because of the process called balancing, and that is a back and forth where the title agency says, "Oh, this fee over here belongs in this column. That's seller paid, not buyer paid." And the
Hmm.
lender then has to generate a brand new package. And I've seen them do that for 50 cents,
Yeah.
or, oh, this checkbox needs to switch to that. So title says this change needs to be made. They have to send the package back to the lender with the request for the change. The
Mhm.
lender then goes into their closing department, has them make the change, audit the file again, regenerate the package, and then send it back out to title for final approval.
Yeah.
So between the audits, the changes, the requests, the back and forth, that can take a significant period of time and really eat into your guys' signing schedule.
Yes. And I wanted to just kind of point out that originally, one of the reasons why I love BlueNotary is obviously I'm a little bit biased, but one of the reasons why I love BlueNotary is that when that does happen, so let's say I put the documents in front of someone, it's the first time that they've seen it. They're like, this $200 cleaning fee shouldn't be on my side. And so they have to redo the whole entire document instead of having to do a whole new document. For an entire loan package, I can just table it, table the session, get the new information, load it onto BlueNotary, get rid of the old one, and still have that same session if I want it,
Oh,
or
nice.
save the pre-tags for everything else and then just introduce that new set of documents. I hope that makes sense, but introduce that new set of documents without having to do a whole entire new session. So the pre-tagging for everything else um, stays the same, and then I would just introduce the part that needs changed. The whole entire document, like that part, like if it's page 1 through 5 that needs to be changed, 1 through 5, but then there's different parts. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm hoping that it does. Does it?
That's pretty fantastic
Yeah.
because my understanding, like I work with DocuSign and this and that and the other thing,
Mhm.
and having to redo all the signature, initial, and date tabs, that's the most time consuming part of that. So if you can cut this out and save those, that sounds like a big time saver.
It
Okay, that's
really
really neat.
It legitimately really is. I sound like an infomercial for BlueNotary, but it really is because I cannot tell you how many times I've had that happen where they're like, "Oh, well, there's this change," or like they're they need to do an addendum, or like they have something very minor that's needs to be changed, and it could be like one page where I have to take it out and then put it in, and instead of having to do the tags for everything, I just have to do the tags for that page. So you want to make sure that the package is complete still, um, but I mean that is definitely a time saver. So yeah, I'm just throwing that out there. If
Very
you're using
nice.
Notary, you can switch out the documents without having to redo the pre-tags. So, okay, so my next question is kind of like how hybrid closings work. Can you explain that to me?
Okay, so a hybrid closing is where you have the two parties, say the seller and the buyer, they're in, let's say they're in different states,
Mhm,
and the lender is requiring the original package. So you have your person sign where they are, then you have to send that package signed by them over to back to the title agency. The title agency then takes that package and has to resend it to the other party to
mhm.
have that signed. Then that package is finally sent back to the lender, at which point you can fund.
Yes.
Hybrid closings are, they're a bit of an annoyance in my
Mhm,
field because no one gets paid. The seller doesn't get paid, the buyer doesn't get paid, the title agency doesn't get paid, and I don't get paid until we fund. So we can close on the closing day. The buyer signs everything and it's closed, but they don't get keys, they don't get the property, they don't get anything until it funds. And
mhm,
that can take a few days. But I think thanks to you guys and the Electronic Signature Act of 1996 in Florida, which makes electronic signatures have the same legal standing as ink signatures.
mhm.
I think that they are going to get rid of hybrid closing requirements because there's no reason under Florida law, from my understanding, that you can't close completely virtually and have the same notary do both sides
Yeah.
with the people in one single session with the new availability of things like Blue Notary.
Mhm.
So I don't think hybrid closings are here to stay, but they are probably the most complex because they have so many moving parts, and you have to get the original signed package from here to there to here to there, and then finally back to the lender.
Yeah, so those are for the traditional, like, in-person wet signatures, and then
Mm-hmm.
definitely think that that is going to be something that is in the past just because, um, home buyers don't wanna deal with that, and they don't like the whole I just came back from something called digital mortgage where we were talking about that a ton, and I definitely think that that is something that is going to be relevant on everybody's terms. So, okay, so hybrid closings, we talked about that. What
Mm-hmm.
happens if it doesn't get funded by the settlement date? Like, let's say the notary missed a signature or, something happened where they couldn't sign it.
Well, um, the first thing is don't schedule it just yet because that is going to have to go back to the lender. It's
Mhm,
likely that they are going to need an extension addendum for the closing date because
mhm,
uh, most contracts say to close on or before such and such date.
mhm,
Um, if they don't say or before, you have to get an addendum even if you want to close early. But say you overshoot, you're going to need a lock extension because generally you try to lock it so that the lock expires either on the day of closing or on the day of funding. You usually want to leave yourself 3 days for that to clear, especially in a refinance.
mhm.
But you'll also need a contract addendum signed by both parties stating that they're extending the closing date. That opens you up to underwriting again with the lender. So it's not a delay of 2 hours. This is going to be probably at least 2 days because most lenders have a 48-hour review period and then they send it back to their closing department for another audit. So it causes quite a few delays. You'll probably be getting that signature the following week.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, that would be not ideal. I have seen it happen where I've actually had to drive out to different locations to be able to get the signatures again because of how important it is. Like when I was doing mobile work, and I still do it occasionally, but I was doing mobile work and the title company forgot to send something. So then they sent it to me. I had to print it out and then drive out there again. Um, so I realized the importance of these documents because if these documents don't get signed on time, like John, we've had it where people are driving down from up north and they're trying to close on their house and they have like their
Mm-hmm.
whole caravan of like dogs and like people and cars and their stuff and they expect to be able to move into the house at a certain amount of time and if there is an issue with the closing they're ending up in not the most ideal like a hotel with a bunch of dogs. So that's happened. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you want to make sure that when you are doing these loan signings to kind of keep that in the back of your mind that what you are doing is super, super important because there can be a lot riding on these documents getting finalized in a in the manner that it's supposed to. So on the day that it's supposed to. And it's not even just the human element, it's the financial element too, because there's the rate lock issue, in case something needs to can you explain rate lock a little bit?
Absolutely. So the rate lock is rates go up, they go down every single day. So generally, when you submit a loan to a lender, you've got an idea of how long you need that lock for.
Mhm,
And you go in and you say, hey, the rates today are probably better than they're going to be a month from now when we close, because most closings take 30 to 45 days. Um, my record is 13, but that's not usual.
yeah,
So your rate is almost always going to be better when you submit the loan than it
mhm,
is going to be when you close it, especially now in a rising rate environment. So
yeah,
you lock in the best rate that you think that you can get them, and the lender says, we will hold this rate sheet from today for the next 30 days. And no matter what changes happen in the market, that's the sheet that you get your rate off
mhm,
of. and they're locked to the sheet, not the rate. So if they want to do a buy down later or buy up the rate for extra funds for closing, they can still make those sort of changes during the process, but they're locked to the rates for that specific day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then, okay, so I have a different question. So you
Mm-hmm.
obviously know what I do as far as like networking and marketing towards different types of like people, like realtors, um,
Mm-hmm.
lenders, things like that. Do you think that it would be beneficial for me as a notary to market towards you as a mortgage loan originator?
Absolutely. Uh, there's there's not been too many occasions where I have had to, hand out your name or send out a mobile or a virtual notary referral to a title agency. But
Mhm.
there have been several occasions where the title agency says, "Oh, well, our notary can't do it in this time frame. We're going to have to extend the closing." And I
Mhm.
don't want to do an or lock extension. The sellers don't want to sign an extension on that. So I say, hey, I've got this fantastic notary that will do it right now.
Yeah.
Give them the contact information, and they if you put it on an email and you CC the listing agent, the seller's agent, the buyer, and the seller, it's really hard for them to say, no, 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 we only use our notaries, because
Exactly.
here I have this person who's able to do it, and they're able to do it on time.
Yeah.
You don't have that person. I know you like working with them, but let's get it closed. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I've had notaries save me on uh, v- VA loans where the wife is ready to move and the husband is deployed, and suddenly we have to do this or that or the other thing, and it. I've also had people on an oil rig
Mhm.
close.
Yeah.
Um, And there was one very brave mobile notary who hiked up to the base camp at the base of a mountain in the Rockies, because the buyer was in the middle of climbing a mountain and wouldn't come all the way down, but would climb back down to the base camp. So they signed on the side of a mountain. Um, but yeah, it's everybody wants to take a vacation as soon as they start the process of
Yeah.
buying a house.
Well, okay, I laugh at that, but I did go through the hurricane like zones all over the place, like right after the hurricane in my little like Subaru that was just like to be able to help get some. It was proof of loss because people wanted like their houses taken care of, and then
Mhm.
some of the other stuff that I had to get signed and like I just had to do it in person. So yes, mobile notaries are really doing doing the most work because I see those guys all the time. Um,
Oh yeah, they're in the trenches. They've saved several deals for me. I'm looking forward to seeing more and more electronic closings,
yeah.
because lenders are starting to get on board with that, and they're starting to allow it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially the Florida ones where we have laws that say that the electronic signature is the same as the other one. But
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that it's going to be beneficial. So, also to the notaries that are like deciding if they wanted to market towards the mortgage loan originators, I definitely wanted to kind of highlight that John gets to be kind of behind the scenes and see when the issues happen, where it's like, this loan isn't going to close because these people decided to go to Croatia during the settlement period, and that happens all the
Mhm.
time. What's the name that we call it? It's like the vacation closing syndrome or something, where they're just gone, right when they choose the settlement
Yeah.
date. Yeah. So, and that's like super common, but I'm saying that he gets to see that. And as long as the underwriter or the lender allows it, for him to be able to say, I know that they're in Croatia, and instead of waiting to go instead of waiting to go to an embassy or a consulate or making them come back home or doing an extension for a rate lock, I have a virtual notary or a remote online notary that I know. So it's important to start making those connections for these mortgage loan originators, just so that you can get in front of the right people. So, I mean, you recommended me to a title company that was immobile, um,
Mhm.
and I did it, and now she ended up being one of my most used clients, because I did a mobile for her, a couple different times, because I wanted that work, and then I converted her over to remote. So if you do the mobile one, that's a really, really good way to get your foot in the door and kind of get your name out there as far as, like, "I'm professional. I do the work, like, I'm on time, I'm gonna bring everything, I'm good at communication." And then you can have those conversations with the title, they will listen to you, um, because you've shown up in a way that they would want to work with you again. So, I think it's definitely beneficial to market. So, I mean, I guess how would someone try and market to you as a notary?
Well, we we need you guys when we need you. A lot of us don't realize that we might, but there's a growing number of loan originators who are working on building relationships specifically with title companies because I work with more title agents. Like I have more reliable working relationships with title agencies than I do with realtors. And the realtors are the ones who bring me the referrals. But I
Mhm,
work more with the title agencies to get everything balanced and closed on time. So having the ability to say, hey, I know you guys are in a bind, but I've got this person, knowing that I have someone like yourself who can go in and do mobile or virtual or, whatever they need
mhm.
on short notice, if I see the problem coming up and I have someone, I can solve this, save the deal for the sellers, the buyers, and everybody.
Yeah,
Um, I would think that a campaign about saving deals and short-term, like short-term closing, like you have something that needs to close within the next 48 hours and you don't have anybody, if you advertise something along the lines of, uh, you know, we'll close it fast, we'll schedule it, when you need it, and
mhm,
um, it was the same advertising that I did to realtors. Like, hey, you want to save that deal? Just because they can't finance it doesn't mean I can't.
yeah,
And if you guys kind of offer that as a service to specifically mortgage brokers,
mhm,
I don't have a title agency that I can refer out to you. I have 12
yeah,
that I work with on a regular basis. And if you get two of those, they're going to send you a bunch of deals every year. Because if you save them on the problem file, they
yeah.
will absolutely send you work for the ones that aren't problem files.
Yes. Yeah, and that's a different thing that I wanted to kind of highlight on is that because this has happened to me all the time and it kind of drives me crazy and I don't work with these people anymore, is that if you have like problem children clients and you send them to different notaries or you send them to different places and they do it and they complain, I am not usually wanting to work or like send other work to them because like I'm sticking my neck out by sending this work to you and then like it's fine, but when you complain and you don't like thank me for sending out work, it makes me not want to use you as much. So I am always very, very careful for when I do get the problem children as far as for the notarizations or anything like that. I think my attitude of doing this is that it's like, yeah, like this person screamed on the phone to me, but like the next one won't be so bad. So just kind of like the way that you talk about the clients, it makes it so that like, yeah, I might get some problem children, but I'm fine with that and I can move past it and I'll get the deal done. So that's honestly what they care about is being able to close the loans. Like they don't care if they're mean mean to you necessarily. So um, yeah, I think that's important. Okay, so you market to the different title companies. Do you have any, I guess, recommendations for when you're marketing to title companies? Because I mean, we're kind of going after the same market
Well,
for a notary.
generally, when I would think that offering your services specifically as an emergency virtual or mobile notary, and this would probably work specifically with title agencies that are in your physical area, um, I would go physically to the title agency, bring in, some information about you and what you do, and say,
Mhm.
hey, if you guys ever have a short notice thing, I'm right down the street. I can be here in a half an hour, and uh, I can save the deals that you might lose.
Yeah.
Keep me in mind. And, that offering the like, hey, this is the emergency number that you dial.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty soon that's going to be the only number that they dial because, oh,
100%.
you came through for us here and here and here. And our regular guy that we were referring all this work out to didn't come through on any of those occasions. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to get that account.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you can start off as an emergency and say, oh, I can do mobile, I can do virtual. You can slowly transition them just through the fact that, yeah, I actually get these things closed for you. I get it done when I say I'm going to.
Mm-hmm.
You can transition those people. Hey, did you know you can do this virtually? Did you know that you can do this virtually? And suddenly you don't have very many mobiles. You're doing it all from your house and you've got their entire book of business.
Yeah. And that is what happened with that client that you, thank you, gave to me. Is that I
It
did a
worked
bunch
out.
of, yeah, well, thanks. I did a bunch of mobile work for her. And then once I kind of got that relationship and she trusted me, um, we like she just texts me from now on, like, to see if I'm available for things, and I'm like, I have a title company, like, this I have a title companies like texting me to see if I'm available because I started out doing the mobile work, and I think for the first one I did not charge that much. So I think when you are first starting out, to try and get that incentivized, um to think about doing it so that it's like whatever they offer for you. You can always counter offer, but taking that work just so that you can get your foot in the door, and then they meet you as a person. So now I'm at the point where she is texting me like, can I do this? Can you do this? And that's exactly where I want to be, as a position of like a resource. Like, she's like, I have two people, they're in separate locations. Does that matter? And I'm like, no. So, and then I can have the knowledge to explain to her that if you have two different people, the notary block, if you want to, can be the same if they're on the same, um, in the same document, or if we have to do it on separate times, make the notary block where it's like John Doe and then underneath is Jane Doe. So that way I can notarize it all of Jane's in one time and then all of John's in one time. And then I can give her the complete document at the very end. So that obviously brings a ton of value because there are so many times where there's signers that are not in the same location, that need to get this signed through remote online notarization, or I guess even mobile if you wanted to do it that way. But like for me to be able to have that knowledge to talk to her about that, um, just to have like that background is super important. I think that if I add value to their business, to be able to like kind of have them conceptualize these different things, um, like they're going to use me. And like, John, if you introduce a way that makes it easier for title companies to close, or like faster or better turnaround, like they're going to use you more often than, someone that's never contacting them and just kind of coasting. So yeah, definitely.
Well,
Definitely.
it kind of ties into the what you were saying about, your attitude towards the clients and the title agencies, and just recognizing that, yeah, these people are absolutely upset. They're about to be homeless because this thing isn't going to close on time, or they're not going to get their yacht, or their license is going to be suspended, or whatever the notarization is. They're
Yeah.
not mad at us, like,
Yeah.
because I I get yelled at a good bit too by realtors and clients and this and that. What do you mean you need more documents?
Yeah.
But you're the solution for the
Mhm.
problem that they're having, and they're upset with the situation that's happening, and separating yourself out from that and not taking it personal is probably one of the biggest reasons that I get repeat customers, because
Mhm.
I mean, you can swear up and down at me, and at the end of the day, when you're done, I'm going to close your deal and get you into a house. And most of the time, the people are like, I'm really sorry. I wasn't my
That
best.
happened to
It's
me.
like, look, like you're about to be homeless. Like I get it. Like you're perfect. It's understandable why you're mad. I
Yeah.
understand you weren't mad at me. I didn't take it personally, and
Yeah.
that's gotten me an awful lot of repeat business.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I've only had one client where I haven't been able to actually take care of him because he was so mean to me on the phone. And I'm very patient. I'm very patient when I'm walking the signers through everything. I let title companies know and like the mortgage officers know, like I am fine with it walking clients through because one of the biggest things that they are worried about is that their clients are not going to be able to figure out how to do the remote online notarization. So, well, one, we have the sign on process. If you prep the clients, that 100% helps, but also, and it is a little bit of a funny thing that I didn't really expect for me to be doing. But if you walk the signers through the process and get them to, I guess, the end of it and everything, and coach them through, they're going to tell the title companies and they're going to tell whoever it is, the realtor, like, because I've had it where the realtors have asked the signers, like, how did it go? And then they will say, it's a little bit difficult, but I called Katie. She walked me right through it. That has happened.
Mhm.
It's just that initial thing that you want to make sure that the first impression is the best impression. Um, but it really does make a difference for when you get that client retention because the signers in front of you are representative of a bunch of different people that are potential um, source, like not sources of revenue, but honestly, essentially sources of revenue, like the realtors, the mortgage loan officers. I've had people where realtors ask other realtors, like, how did that go? So it is very representative of a bigger picture when you are having these signers in front of you, even if you might not necessarily think that it is. So for like long term referrals and income. So. Did you have anything that you specifically wanted to like address? Otherwise, I was going to open it up for anyone that had questions.
Um, well, I kind of wanted to clarify a little bit about the process of getting docs to you.
Okay.
Um, there's a couple stages of the loan. There's the initial submission, and then we have what's called conditional approval. And
Mm-hmm.
that's basically the lender says, "Hey, I'm fine with getting this done. I just want these questions answered." Um, and this ties into why does it take so long for them to get me documents?
Yeah.
Because occasionally they will ask for additional conditions towards the end. Say, we've got everything balanced, the package is executed, you've got it. And all of a sudden, the title agency reaches out to you and says, "Oh, hold on, we've got to send you an updated package."
Mm-hmm.
Well, the lender's credit monitor until the day of signing. So if they bought a bunch of stuff at Rooms to Go or, open a new account for this or that, it could cause some delays. It opens us back up to the underwriting process where they can ask any questions. And then that eats up a bunch of time getting it rebalanced and then sent back out to you.
Yeah.
Um, so it's usually not the title company's fault, and it's usually not necessarily the mortgage broker's fault, but a lot of the times the buyer or the seller will do a silly thing with their credit or
Same
um,
thing.
or it's silly to buy another car in the middle of
Yeah.
buying a house. Like don't do that. But it's usually fixable, and it usually just takes time until we can get it closed.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Um, it- so I'm gonna John, do you have time? If
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. If anyone has any questions, you can either raise your hand if you can figure it out, or just take yourself off mute and then just ask for any questions or anything that we didn't answer. All right, Heather, go ahead. You got to unmute yourself. I don't know if I can
Well,
do it
I,
for you.
I can't I can't hear you, Heather.
Can you
No,
hear
yeah.
me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
There you are.
Okay. Hi, guys. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing well.
Good, good. So, when we're going to market, and which
Mhm.
I'm going to do today, I did some networking this morning, Katie.
Yay!
But what type of language? I know we're speaking Ron to them, but how
Yeah.
can we simplify it? Because they're they don't know. They just,
Um, yeah, no, that is always kind of a thing. So you have to be kind of not careful, but like I have noticed that when I am marketing towards these different people, they have no uniformity of like what it is that we do. So sometimes they call me a virtual notary, sometimes they call me a remote notary, sometimes they call them e-closings or e-signatures. So basically when or hybrid. John, I know that you were talking about hybrid, but sometimes they talk about
Mhm.
hybrid closings for what
And
we
they
do.
mean E, yeah.
What, yeah, they mean, yeah. So it's kind of knowing all of those and just saying that, we can do things remotely through either a laptop, a smartphone, or a tablet. So that kind of opens up the conversation. And then usually what they're going to ask after that is about the security and the fraud. So then I just kind of explain the security and the fraud factors. So, all of the things that the signers would have to go through to make sure that we are vetting these people because the mortgage industry is very, very concerned about fraud all the time. That like I was at Digital Mortgage, that's pretty much all we talked about is fraud. So it is a little bit of a game changer when you are marketing towards these people, to let them know that you can cut down on fraud because I was in a conversation with a couple different people from the mortgage industry, like from the mortgage industry during this digital mortgage. And they were talking about, fraud and all of this other stuff. And I was like, well, virtual notarization cuts down on fraud rather than mobile, right? And they literally all stopped eating. And I was like, oh no, oh no, there's so much attention right now. But then they were like, all right, giving me my like the card. They're like, I want to talk to you. So if you kind of say that I'm a remote online notary, and I have the ability to do XYZ, like multiple signers, different locations. If there's a signer that's out of state, you do not have to do mailaways. So mailaways are something that like you print out the whole entire package, you send it up to someone in up north, and then they have to find a notary somewhere up there and then send everything back down. That is a huge issue because there's shipping costs, and then they are also kind of relying on the people up north finding a notary that knows what they're doing, because loan signings can be very, very tricky when they're getting signed out, signing everything. And if it's like Martha down the street who just got her notary license, it's very, very easy to get messed up. So I kind of say that, like, in case you have something like that, call me. So they'll say, like, oh, I don't need a virtual notary. And it's like, I'm just gonna leave my stuff here and you let me know in case you ever need me. So when you give those cards and everything, follow up with a email. And I want you to make sure that when you put that stuff in an email, put all of the keywords that someone would search for if they are trying to find you in a panic. So virtual notary, remote notary,
Mhm.
stuff like mobile notary, stuff like that. So that way, if they don't remember your name or your business name, which is very, very common, they'll be able to search for you in the like Gmail, for a notary, and then you're going to pop up. So make sure that you do that afterwards. So, I would say, hey, I stopped by the office. It was so nice. If you ever have like this scenario or this scenario or this scenario, let me know, and then give the best way to contact you, and a couple different things. You can also add them to a like a newsletter email that you can send out just to kind of keep on top of their mind. Um, and that's kind of how I would market towards these different companies. But even if they say they don't do it or they don't use you, if you're going to a title company or mortgage loan officer, sometimes they do cash deals. Cash deals are like knockout in the park for us because they don't really deal with lenders, so they don't have to deal with underwriters. So sorry, John. um,
Great. If you've got the cash.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, like, it's easy for us to say the cash deals because like there's not that much involved as far as like underwriting, which is, so clearing the multiple signers are not available at the same. Yes, okay. So Ashley asked about having multiple signers in different places. So let's say I'm buying a house. No, let's say John is buying a house and his wife is in Nebraska. John is in Canada, but he is still, no, let's say selling, because selling a house is easier. He's still selling the house. So he needs to sign something, sign the documents, and so does his wife that are in different locations. So I come to the title company and say, I know that John's wife is in Nebraska and John is in Canada, but I can do it remotely. So she would send me the documents, and then we could either do it as the same session and get everything all set, and I can send it right back to the title company. BlueNotary has an option where you can add the title company as an observer. So it sends the documents as soon as everything is finalized right to the title company. So you do not even have to basically email them again, which I would do anyway, just because you want that extra point of contact for marketing. But yeah, so the way that you would do it is if it was in the same session, it would be the same notarial block. So if you're hopefully familiar with the wording of when you are signing and notarizing something, you say, this person was in front of me and I saw them, and then you sign it. So if they're in the same spot, you can say, Jane Doe and John Doe were in front of me and I'm signing this. If they cannot be on the same call, ask the title company or ask the law firm or whoever is preparing those documents to do separate blocks. So one block with all of the wording that you would need. So I saw like the venue, the state. I saw John Doe basically sign this, like whatever verbiage you need for your state, and then you would stamp it for John Doe, and then there would be another one underneath for Jane Doe. So that way, when you're going through the document with John, you would do all of it for John Doe, and then when you're going through the document with the wife, you would do it like you would notarize the document for the wife. So it's two separate blocks rather than all together. Does that make sense? I I hope so. I hope so. Okay, good. So yeah, that is kind of how you can introduce those types of things. I've also found it to be beneficial if you introduce specific scenarios like that. So that way they can kind of think of like if they're like, "Oh, we don't need a virtual notary or we don't need a remote notary." And it's like, "Okay, fine, but wait until that scenario comes up," because that has happened where they're like, "We're never gonna need a notary like that." And then the next week they're like, "So we lied." It's like, "Good, good, that's fine. I want you to use me and I want weird not weird things, but like essentially weird emergencies to happen, and then they'll call me, but that happens more often than you would think. Like the initial rejection is not always an initial rejection. So yeah, that's just something to think about when you're going through, to just kind of hopefully wait by the wait by the phone, because eventually they'll probably use you. John, yes, do you have a question?
No, I didn't have a question, but I did want to address Ashley's question from the chat there, how to specifically market to an MLO.
Yeah.
Um, if you were marketing to me, I would say, like, say you were creating an email campaign
Mhm.
to go out to MLOs in your area, or you were going to go out in person. I would approach it in the manner of, hey, let me save your next catastrophe. Like, let me save your next closing, because I can do mobile, I can do in person, I can do virtual, I can do all of these versatile things.
Mhm.
And if your title agency doesn't come through on the day you need it to, because like I said, if we don't make the settlement date, it is a big deal for us. So having someone in our back pocket, even if it's unlikely that we'll ever be able to recommend them, which
Mhm.
it's happened a few times to me, um, having that person there where we can easily say, oh, you know what? Stewart Title, I have somebody in the area who can do this mobile, who can come into your office, who can do it virtually. You can solve a variety of problems specifically for me just by being versatile in that way. And okay, so you don't want to do a lot of mobile notary things. That emergency, that saving the deal, that's your opportunity to build the relationship with the MLO, because if you save a deal for me, that gets my sellers happy. That makes my realtors happy. That makes my lenders happy. That makes my underwriters happy. That makes dozens and dozens of people who I have established relationships with think better of me, because rather than saying, hey, we're going to need to extend this thing, and now I've got to negotiate with the seller's agent, the buyer's agent, the buyer, the seller, the lender, the lock, the whole nine. Like, you guys can save us just a huge amount of headache and literally keep our clients from having to get an Airbnb on short notice and pay for an extra day of a rental truck with a U-Haul sitting in front of a hotel.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that will get you a lot of referrals, because if you save that deal for me, there's not a single person that I will recommend other than you.
Mm-hmm. And here, okay, so I have a different. Do you have a way, like a technique that would stand out? Well, okay, so I want to kind of address, John, have you ever actually been marketed to by a notary?
No,
Besides
not once.
So
not
that's
one time ever.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is, like, I do these untapped market things because I know that people think that it's like so oversaturated, but there's so much opportunity for, if you are a good notary and you want to get in front of these different people, the people that are going out and like kind of thinking of a little bit unconventional ways to market and get in front of, is the way to do it. Because I mean, John, I've gotten a good amount of work from you. I love you. Thank you. So I mean, it is, some of that is a little bit interesting to be able to market towards these different loan officers. So like, even if you called John, like, don't I mean, even if you called the mortgage loan originators and said, "Hey, I'm a notary. Can I send you over some information for next time if anything ever happens?" I mean, it's not like, John, it's not like you would be like, "No," and then like hang
No.
up with it. Like, you're bringing value to these people by helping them to be able to close loans. So it's all about bringing value to their business, so that way they can, recommend you to other people. And then also, I was thinking about this. You can always see if they are open to letting you know about different networking events that come up. Because John, I'm sure that we have the same target. So if you find different events in the area or even like remote,
Oh, God.
yeah. Yeah, because I'm sure you get
Brokers opens, open houses, where you can get in and, be memorable with the people that you want to work with. Like, if
Mhm.
you're going after a title agency, send them a physical thing. If I want to work with a realtor and I can't get them on the phone or can't get past the gatekeepers, I'll send something to their office. I like this one. I'll send a little keychain Rubik's cube to them and
Mhm.
say, let's figure out how to work together. And like, that's a memorable thing. Like, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, all right, this is like, they might not remember, oh yeah, it's John the mortgage guy, but they're gonna remember that guy that sent me the Rubik's cube. Yeah, that was funny. Like,
Oh,
and I'll get some business that way.
yeah. Okay, this has like nothing to do with anything, but it's October, and one of my ads that I sent out was the best ad that I've ever gotten any type of response for. And it was finding a notary does not have to be spooky. And I sent it out as like so I sent it out as an email, and then I did a crossword search that I just gave to them, and it was like title company crossword search. Do you know how much business I got from that email? it was absolutely ridiculous, but it was so much fun. So, I mean, if you want to use that idea to like make something up on Canva and send it over to them, it was hilarious. It was hilarious. I got calls from it. They were like, "I'm literally not going to use you, but this was so funny." I'm so proud of that. So, anyway,
That's nice.
yeah, thanks. I thought it was good too. And I put that on my Facebook groups. So all of the Facebook groups all over the place, they also thought that it was, it got some likes and like not any shares, but like it did get some likes. But I do think that doing stuff like that, marketing kind of outside of the box works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, do you
Send them
guys
some donuts. Say sweeten your next deal using BlueNotary. Like there's all kinds of memorable little things that you can do, and
Mhm.
you've probably thought about them already and be like, no, that's corny. Do it. Corny
Do
sells.
it, do it, do it, do it. It's some of it is like, well, how did that work? And then it's like it doesn't make any sense. But I do have to go because I have a 2 o'clock signing. But
All
do you
right.
guys, yeah, do you guys have any other questions or anything? Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it. John, I have a different idea for you to do the next one. Sorry, you're stuck with me.
That's fine.
The next one, I'm not exactly sure, but we are going to have John on again. And I want to talk about the different considerations for when you are going from a W-2 to self-employed, because that's most of what the notaries do. So, okay. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out in the Facebook group. But thank you. So, John, thanks for.
Thanks for your attention, everybody, and good luck out there.
Oh, Kelly, did you have a question?
Yes. Hi, John. How do we follow you? Or
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
On YouTube, I'm John the Mortgage Guy. I'm John the Mortgage Guy on Facebook. I've got some stuff on Instagram, also John the Mortgage Guy. So if you search for the Mortgage Guy or John the Mortgage Guy, you will absolutely find me. I've got some educational videos for clients on the loan process that might, help you guys understand the process a little bit better. Actually, I think I've got a video on switching from 1090 or from W-2 to 1099.
You do.
And we try to put out more content to help educate people about the home buying process, and it might be useful to you guys as well.
I think it is.
do you do
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Do you deal with real estate investors? I mean, usually real estate investors, they do have the cash a lot of the time, but are you also?
Yes, I'm a real estate investor myself, and a large portion of my clientele are repeat customers who are using, say, the leapfrog method, where they will purchase a home with a low down payment and a good interest rate, and then they'll live there for a year, and then they'll buy another one using low down payment, and they rent out the old one. They can use the income from the old one. So there's a huge stock of small time real estate investors who absolutely do not have the cash to do it, but they're utilizing the mortgage system and the incentives offered to buyers of primary residences to build their real estate portfolio. You have to be willing to move, but yeah, there's a huge cross section of people that are small time real estate investors, have 2 to 5 properties, and they're cycling through.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Okay.